It's 10 o'clock.
Hello, hello, hello. Hiya. I'm Casey Durango of Go Keto with Casey, where I talk about how I lost 97.4 pounds after starting the Ketogenic Protocol and how you may be able to lose weight, improve your health, and regain control of your life. Sorry about that, like I did. Hope you're all well. I am well, in front of my fire on this overcast and cold day. And JACK is waiting for a treat because he knows that if it's Saturday and I'm talking into the computer, he gets a treat. There you go, buddy. Okay. Someone can let me know that you can see and hear me. I would really appreciate it. Today's topic, as the thumbnail suggests, I'm looking to see because my husband is in travel status, so just looking to see if I'm getting any messages from my stupid smartwatch. He's travel status in Colombia. He's not coming back until next Saturday. So the thumbnail says my medical test after 12 years on keto. And I had hoped that I would have all of the lab tests back, but the one of them's not, but most of them are. But I still have interesting stuff to share. All right. So, first of all, to the uninitiated, if you are unaware what the ketogenic protocol is, and I will share as I learned it and as I have practiced it for now 12 years and 10 days. Keep your carbohydrate intake to 20 grams or fewer a day. That's total carbs, not net carbs. Why? Because net carbs just means more carbs. Enjoy fatty sources of protein, but it's not a high fat diet. Just eat the fat that comes with the protein. Limited amounts of non starchy vegetables and limited amounts of full fat dairy, but neither dairy nor vegetables are compulsory. Don't eat if you're not hungry. And this is something we have to learn because when we become fat burners, which happens after you cut your carbohydrate intake sufficiently, your body switches from predominantly burning glucose to predominantly burning ketones or fat for fuel. And the hunger signal is a very different thing when that happens. When your brain is calling for glucose, we think that's hunger. That's just your brain saying, get me some more glucose. Anyway, that's not the discussion for today. Oh, and stop eating when you've had enough. Also challenging. All right. So I've been doing this now for over 12 years. Last week's live stream was a live stream about that. 12 years. Who says it's not sustainable? And then I had not even my annual physical because in truth, I don't go every year to the doctor. And that's fine with her. I mean, save the slot for a sick person, right? And I'm not. But it's been a couple of years, so I went. Plus, I needed to make sure that I could get a refill of Valtrex, which is valacyclovir, which is really important for fever blisters. If you get the occasional fever blister and you take Valtrex or valacyclovir, you know how important it is. But I have to see the doctor to get that refilled. So, anywho, and I told her that. I said, that's really the only reason I'm here. So let me get to the medical test. Now, this is the same doctor that my husband and I have been seeing for 20 years. So long before keto. And I was really, really, really heavy for a long time, ever since the first time she laid eyes on me. Super heavy, perfectly round. Then I have this one annual physical, and I knew this, well, in January 12 years ago, I knew my next doctor's visit was going to involve a conversation about taking insulin for type 2 diabetes and repeating the message to go low fat and move more and eat less. And I didn't want to take insulin for type 2 diabetes. I'd given up on losing weight. You can go to my blog, you can see some of the photos. None of the photos from my heaviest, those don't exist that I know of. But I tried to move more, eat less. I did the triathlons, sprint level triathlons. Let's not get it twisted. And literally on every triathlon in which I participated, by the time I finished the run, air quotes, portion, and I finished the route, they'd already posted the results. And people were packing up, the musicians and the vendors were packing up. Anywho, tried that. Belonged to every gym in town. Did the juicing, did the low fat, did the vegetarianism, blah, blah. But I didn't want to take insulin for type 2 diabetes. I did not take insulin for type 2 diabetes. Went to the Google machine. Turns out what you do is you reduce carbohydrate intake. Caveat, if you are currently taking insulin for type 2 diabetes and you want to try this, you must do so under doctor supervision, because cutting off the carbs will lower your blood sugar. But if you're still taking insulin, it can lower your blood sugar too much and result in hypoglycemia, which is very dangerous. Okay. So that was January of 2014, 12 years ago. At some point, April, I think, maybe April, sometime that spring, I go for my physical. By now, I've lost about 20 pounds. So I'm not dreading it so much. And I'm feeling super duper. My mood is regulated. My joint pain has resolved. I feel energetic. So I go into my appointment. They weigh you first. You get there. First, they make sure you have insurance. Then they weigh you. And then they take your blood pressure and all that. The nurse does. And then the doctor comes in reading the chart. Okay, Casey, wow, you've lost whatever it was, 22 pounds, 21 pounds, 25 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever it was. That's great. Congratulations. How did you do that? I said, thank you. I feel great. I did it by doing the opposite of what you told me to do. I honestly said that to her. My online medical records to that point, because I could read her notes every year, Casey continues to struggle with her weight. Truth. I continue to recommend a low-fat diet and exercise. So I did the opposite of what she recommended. I also had been reading, I was still in the process of reading Good Calories, Bad Calories by Gary Taubes. And it took me about 9 months to get through it. It's a very dense book. And I'm a clever enough person, but it's a dense book. Anyway, I was still reading it, so I put it on the little table along, I'm in my little gown. And she said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just kind of laid off the carbs. And I'm eating fatty sources of protein. And she saw then the book. She said, oh, you're doing very low carb. I said, I am. She went, just like this. That's great. But I'm concerned about your cholesterol. I said, I know you are. But it's not your fault. You were taught the wrong thing. Now, to her credit, she did not fire me as a patient. She did not give me a chip on her shoulder. She was happy I'd lost weight. I said, let's do this. Let's do a full lipid profile. A lipid profile is the cholesterol test. It's where they all the cholesterols, and there are several types, are lipids, fats. So triglyceride, HDL, both types of LDL, et cetera, et cetera. I said, do a full lipid profile, an NMR. Okay. Then she goes on and continues with the checkup, and she's asking me questions about it. I'm telling her how much better I feel. Now, granted, up to this point, I was not exercising. I was, exercise is excellent for core strength and clearing your mind and all that stuff, but I wasn't doing it. I just had more energy. I was moving more because I could move more. So anyway, so we go through this, and on the results from that visit, she writes, and I can't remember what the numbers were, but she wrote, Casey, this is an excellent lipid profile. Keep doing what you're doing. Now, we have gone from that moment to this past week. So I come and she says, hey, Casey, it's been a while. I said, it has been a while. She says, oh, great. And so she's going over, they've already done the intake. They're asking how many medications I take. 0. I take a teaspoon of cod liver oil a day when I remember. Sometimes I forget, for the vitamin D. Because that was one thing. 2 checkups ago, so 2 years ago, before that. Two checkups ago, I was quite deficient in vitamin D. A checkup ago, I was in the normal range because I've been taking a teaspoon of cod liver oil a day. But I've gotten out of the habit. So anywho, everything. She says, well, you've maintained the You've maintained your weight. I assume you're still following. She called it Atkins. I said, yeah, the ketogenic protocol, because frankly, the ketogenic protocol is the induction period of Atkins. Oh, your hair looks very pretty. Thank you. For those of you who don't know, I'm freaked out about my hair all the time. Okay. So I said, yes, yes. So, wow, you've kept this up for 5 years. I said, no, 12. 12 years? She looks back through, oh my gosh, it's been 12 years. Yes. She said, can I tell you the only person that has tried this, that has been successful and maintained their weight? She says, because as you know, it's not sustainable for most people. I said, I'm going to take a little umbrage with that, doctor. I said, it's only not sustainable if you don't sustain it. I said, frankly, laying off of cigarettes isn't sustainable if you keep smoking every now and again. But you wouldn't tell someone giving up cigarettes is not sustainable. She took that under advisement. So then we go through things. She did make 2 statements. She said, you're the healthiest Medicare patient I have. Now, to those you don't know, Medicare does not mean I'm decrepit. It means I turned 65 and my husband and I are both on Medicare. I said, really? She said, yes. And she's looking through and she checks, and my blood pressure was great. And so she said, frankly, you're the healthiest 67-year-old I see. Well, thank you. Now, I do understand that she's a doctor and she's more likely to be seeing sick people than healthy people. But I'm quite healthy. Okay, so we go through all that. She says, would you like to we'll draw some blood today. Do you want to go ahead to do the full lipid profile? Which she used to kind of, look at me like I had monkeys on my face when I asked for it. I said, well, yeah, if it's not a problem, I know coding can be an issue. She said, no. Your overall cholesterol is high enough that I can code this as high cholesterol screening. Now, she knows that just because my overall cholesterol number, which is kind of useless, is high, it's because my HDL is so incredibly high. Last time I had it drawn, my HDL is 127, y'all. And my triglyceride is 56. And then my small sticky LDL particles, when they want the measure, because they're big fluffies and small stickies, the small stickies are problematic. They want the measure for the small sticky LDL, low density lipoprotein, to be a count of 587 particles per measure, whatever the measure is, like a nano milliliter or something like that. 587 or fewer. Small stickies, 587 or fewer. Mine were fewer than 90. So, and I said, well, great then, if you can do it. She says, oh yeah. She says, but frankly, I'm not worried about your blood tests. Okay, this is the same person that made that sound. That's great that you've lost weight, but I'm worried about your cholesterol. So not only, and this didn't surprise me because it's been 12 years. Very impressed with that doctor. Very impressed. It's not every doctor that continues to have an open mind and to learn things. So as a favorite doctor of mine is quoted as saying, and it's one of my favorite quotes, an expert in this field who was traditionally trained, as was my doctor, and had been espousing low fat and exercise for years, did a round at the VA hospitals and saw 2 veterans who, one after the other, who were buddies, and they had lost a bunch of weight and they'd laid off the carbs. They'd been eating steak and burgers and poultry and eggs. And he said, oh, wow, but I'm worried about your cholesterol. He said, well, your doctor, check it. They said. So anyway, both of them had improved numbers. And this doctor, my favorite doctor, is quoted as saying, I was not so overtrained that I could not see what was going on in front of my very eyes. And this led to a path that was life-changing for him and has been life-changing for many of us. And my life has been changed because I laid off the carbs. My health has been changed, certainly. So let me get to my lab tests. My CBC, my metabolic panel, my thyroid, perfect. My ALP, amyloid phosphatase, I believe that stands for, which is a liver function, is ever so slightly below the normal range, which she wrote of no concern. And my vitamin D decreased just a little bit. So she recommends upping my dose of cod liver oil. I didn't tell her maybe I should just go back to actually taking the cod liver oil every day. Other than that, everything's perfect. My glucose, my electrolytes, potassium, calcium, CO2, bun, you name it. Perfect. My blood pressure was something over 71. My glucose, and I was not fasted. I'd had several cups of coffee because the appointment was not until 11:30, and I wasn't worried about any of the skewing. The thing that has not back yet is the full lipid profile. So I'm disappointed that I checked right before I came on. It's just not back yet. But no longer do the comments say Casey continues to struggle with her weight. It's like, this is good, this is good, this is good. But actually, the more important for me takeaway is that my doctor said, I'm not worried about your blood tests. We'll do this because I'm curious. Let's see. Fantastic. So I'm going to take a little bit of credit for possibly changing her mind a little bit about something. And if her mind has changed just a little bit, maybe she won't warn off people who are trying to do the very low carb ketogenic protocol like some doctors do. She might say, I think it's great. I have a patient who's been successful at it. Do keep in mind that you need to stick with it. I mean, this is good, stuff. Just like giving up cigarettes. You don't say just because it's hard to give up cigarettes, you don't try. You do. So I will next week, whatever, good or bad or middling, I will give the lipid profile. I really thought it would be in by now, so I apologize for that. But my last one, like I said, was pretty stellar. And because the overall cholesterol number is a mathematical equation based on 5 factors, there's not like somebody goes in there and counts cholesterol like this for the overall number. They take all these things and multiply them and subtract back out or whatever. So fear not. If you don't have an underlying medical condition of, kind of, rare one, there's no downside to laying off the carbs. And I'm not talking, we can't 100% lay off the carbs unless we consume no food. Because every food that humans consume have the 3 macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbohydrate. It's just that animal products tend to contain very little carbohydrate, and plant products contain very little protein and fat, but they all contain some. But very low carb for me, I average, maybe I'll do a live stream about that because I keep pretty interesting records. I don't count my grams of protein or grams of fat. All I've ever concentrated on is keeping the carbs low. And now I don't even need to count that because it's just the way I eat, and my husband as well. But I do have a fabulous spreadsheet that calculates all this. So I just put in what I eat in a day. And so I'm not eating to a goal of a number of something or other. It's a result. And I looked at it the other day. I'm on average over the course of much time, I average about 10 to 12 grams of carbohydrate a day. And I eat very well. And the food is really yummy to me. I've heard from several people who, like I've been, you kind of look forward to going to the doctor rather than dreading it. Go ahead, pull more blood, test more things. So I will. I'm disappointed that I can't share because that's what people want to know about. They want to know about the cholesterol. I don't anticipate it being a problem, but I'll share it with you. But just know that in general, even our doctors can learn a thing or two. Okay. Now, you don't have to buy one thing to be 100% successful at the Ketogenic Protocol. Not a powder, not a smoothie, not a supplement, not a gummy, for God's sake. You don't need to buy a weekly meal plan. You don't need anything. You just lay off the carbs. But I will happily sell you a book or a t-shirt or a cap or a lunch tote or a whatever. Go to my blog. You can see a bunch of this stuff. And below this video is some stuff to my spreadshot that has things like the t-shirts. This book is full of quotes and habit trackers and, things that you can, mood trackers. But speaking of sustainability, this is a quote from Thomas Edison. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Now, I don't like the word failure, but Thomas Edison had a pretty high opinion of himself. So let's change the word failure. We can just say many people just don't realize how close they were to success before they gave up. How about that? And I have a private support group on patreon.com, link below, where I do every weekday morning video snippets pre-recorded from my kitchen, topics usually suggested by patrons, going up from their handful of patron-only live streams on Patreon, but that's a change, and up from their one-on-ones with me monthly. So there we go. If none of that's to your liking, if you can subscribe, hit the notification bell icon, and give me a thumbs up, that really helps my channel too. Now, I'm going to turn my attention to, watch out, Jackie. He's getting caught up in my charging cable. See, do I have another treat? Yes, I do. Come here, Jack. Here you go. Go away. Okay, we see. Jennifer writes, wishing you great results. And Kimberly 4JC, good morning from a cold and rainy Tennessee. It is cold and not quite raining yet, but I imagine it will be soon. Black Fire Misty, good morning from Central Florida. And Stuart Pierce Jennifer writes, your hair looks very pretty. Thank you. And DJ Cloutier 3576, good morning from Vernon, British Columbia, sunny and -4 degrees Celsius. Even in my neck of the woods earlier this week, we were at -6 degrees Celsius. We measure in Fahrenheit around here, but when I do the snippets, because there are people, they're patrons from, frankly, all over the world, and they measure things differently. So I've gotten used to figuring out the Celsius. Deb Everhole, 9758, just had my blood tested after not being to the doctors since before COVID. All my numbers were great. And also doing the cod liver oil. I put a link to the Carlson, which is what we use. I don't take the pills. Let me tell you why. I don't take fish pills. I don't take vitamin D pills because that's easily adulterated. There was a controversy one time, if you remember, when garlic was supposed to be the thing. Instead of eating more garlic, people were taking garlic pills. It would come to find out there was not only not necessarily any benefit to taking garlic in pill form, there wasn't any garlic in the pills. So because they're non-regulated. But cod liver oil, what the contents are oil from the liver of the codfish. And it just is easy, a teaspoon a day. I get the lemon flavored. I have a friend who does it and uses it on her little salad. So take a salad and put some cod liver oil and a little bit of red wine vinegar. So, and my doctor said, well, you know what? I'll see you whenever. She told me how to stretch out my prescription valacyclovir. She understood it because she gets the fever blisters too, and she doesn't go anywhere without those pills. She said, here's what you do, and so I will do that. I said, I'll see you when I see you. And again, save the slot for sick people. That's my thinking. What a blessing. It's very humbling and illuminating to go sit in a hospital waiting room or in a doctor's office waiting room and see what some people are having to deal with and cope with. So doing this for good health, which is the reason my husband's doing, he's never had a weight issue. He's never had to think twice about what he weighs. Can you imagine? For those of us who have been thinking about what we weigh since we're 13 years old, how fortunate for him that he's never had to think about it. But he doesn't. And he's strong and he's healthy and he's on 0 medications. I mean, 0 medications. When you do an intake with the nurse and they're not looking at you, so because Elvira, the nurse with my doctor, she said, okay, she's looking at my sheet. She says, the medications, you don't have anything listed. I said, whoa, she says, whoa. Yep, it is possible. I heard from one of my patrons, I did one of my morning snippets this week. I'm sure I talked about the blood results. She shared that her mother just turned 70 and is on 0 medications and has energy. My next thing, well, it's my ongoing thing, though, that I don't really have to think about the food. Believe it or not, you get to the point you don't have to think. Food is not the boss of me. There's a link to that. I'm stronger than a cookie. I resurrected that old chestnut, and you can get a mug that says I'm stronger than a cookie. I just don't have to think about it. I do have to concentrate on resistance training for bone density and core strength and my posture. So it's not my favorite thing to do. But just because it's not my favorite thing to do and just because it's challenging doesn't mean I can't do it. Just because it's challenging to sustain laying off the carbs doesn't mean we can't do it. Think of all the things we do that are much more challenging than passing on the pretzels. And we do them. We don't say, oh, that's too hard to keep changing babies' diapers. I don't want to do that anymore. Well, you're going to do it because, oh, it's too hard to, don't let me be like that. You know what it is. Things that are hard, we do anyway. And just because it's challenging doesn't mean it's hard, really. It's really behavior. If I can do this, you can do this. Don't let me forget to say that. If I can do this, you can do this. I promise. Deborah Roll, 9758. Me too. No medications. This is the big lost headline. People who are coming off of several medications. Some of those medications they're taking to protect their stomach from the other medications, because we know unless a physician is really taking a truly holistic approach, one doctor could prescribe something and they may or may not look at interactions or what some other prescriber has done, but they may not. And some medications don't get along well, and some make you sick. Have you watched the pharmaceutical commercials for the list of possible side effects? I mean, when it gets to the suicide and possible tears around the anus might be a side effect. Well, okay. Can I get the same thing by laying off the carbs? Adele Sargent, 1556, right? Hi from Clearwater, Florida. First time catching you live. I'm 84 and have been keto for 8 years. Feel wonderful. All right then. You are my new record holder. Marie, from several years ago, was 93, and she started at age 90. Now, that was several years ago, and I haven't heard from Marie or her son. I'm hoping Marie as well, but I know that she was feeling a lot healthier at 93. So that is quite great, Adele. Congratulations. You're even beating Jackie Eberstein. as far as age. And
Interesting.
now Jackie's been doing it since like 1972. Avocado little. I heard a stat on the radio yesterday. Something like 75% of people over the age of 60 have hypertension. I find that astonishing. I don't. Like I said, go sit. You don't have to go to a hospital ward. Just go to a park bench. Go sit in a parking lot of a store. Wander around a store. And the thing is, some of us have been led to believe that it's inevitable. Now, at some point, we grow older. I am older. I have grown older. I look older. Certain parts of me are older. Well, all of me is older. But I'm healthy. Right? It's not inevitable. We've been sold a bill of goods. Whether there are lots of ways to be healthy. Vegan, vegetarian, move more, eat less, low fat, the marine diet, Calinetics, whatever works for you works. The goal is to be healthy because we're not much good to ourselves or to anyone else if we're very sick and in need of care. Tomorrow is promised to no one, and things happen. I've been diagnosed and treated for cancer 3 times. I'm very lucky to be here. I fell off a 25-foot ladder into a rock garden. I'm very lucky to be here. But the thing that really got me going on this is although 3 diagnoses and treatments for cancer over many years, I somehow could rationalize that in my brain that I might succumb to cancer. But I couldn't see telling my loved ones that I might lose a foot or a kidney or my eyesight or my general good health to type 2 diabetes, all because I didn't want to give up M&Ms and tortilla chips. Just think about that. All right, friends. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. If I can do this, you can do this. Thank you for the support, even if it's just moral. And if this is your second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 15th at bat with this, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happened then. Moving forward. Like we have an option. Okay, friends. I'll see you next time. God willing and the creek don't rise. Bye.